Great Zimbabwe was built using stones without mortar. It was referred to as Zimbabwe, which means a house of stones. There are a number of controversies on how this state started. There are a number of theories on who built Great Zimbabwe. Let's look on the origins of Great Zimbabwe. Eurocentric theories argue that Great Zimbabwe was built by the Europeans. They state that Great Zimbabwe was built by the Arabs, it was built by the Swahilis, it was built by the Portuguese, and some even state that it was built by the Persians and the Indians. They stated that these people, when they came to trade with the local people, that is when they built a great monument such as Great Zimbabwe. Some even state that the buildings that were found in Arabic areas were similar to the buildings that were found at Great Zimbabwe, therefore suggesting that the Arabs might be the people who were responsible for the building of Great Zimbabwe. There are some who state that Great Zimbabwe was built by King Solomon and Queen Sheba. The gold storage facilities that were discovered at Great Zimbabwe were attributed to King Solomon. The ornaments that were discovered at Great Zimbabwe, they were attributed to Queen Sheba. Some state that the local people, the late Iron Age people, were barbaric in nature. They were warmongers, they were bloodthirsty people, they were savages, they were backward. These people were half child, half devil, and as a result of this nature, they could not have built a great monument such as Great Zimbabwe. Therefore, the great monument was built by the Europeans and not the Africans. The Afrocentric theory, it states that Great Zimbabwe was built by the Africans, but it does not specify the exact people who were responsible for the building of Great Zimbabwe. Some state that Great Zimbabwe was built by the Lemba people. Some say that it was built by the leopard copy nomadic pastoralists. Those who talk about the Lemba people, they argue that these Lemba people were good in artistic work, they were good in sculpturing, therefore they were the people who were responsible for the building of Great Zimbabwe. The nomadic pastoralists, these were the people who were always on the move. They looked for good pastures for their animals. They moved and they eventually established their state, which they refer to as Great Zimbabwe. Some state that Great Zimbabwe, it was built by the Mapungubwe people. The Mapungubwe state is started to experience serious ecological problems, and as a result of this, these people had to abandon their state and they moved and they established a new state which they refer to as Great Zimbabwe. They say that this Mapungubwe state, it collapsed or it declined around the 10th century. So the collapse or the declining of this Mapungubwe state led to the beginning of a new state which was referred to as Great Zimbabwe. There are also some who state that Great Zimbabwe was built by the late Iron Age people. These were the people who were using iron tools. These were the people who stayed in different areas around Masvingo. Talk about the Gokomere people, talking about the Ziwa people, talk about the Bambata people, talking about the Maveni people. These people, they decided to formulate a state. They were under different chiefdoms, but they decided to formulate a state, and this state they refer to as Great Zimbabwe. This argument is commonly accepted by a number of historians. They accept or they agree that Great Zimbabwe, it was built by these late Iron Age people. Some even state that Great Zimbabwe was built for, number one, it was built as a protective center or as a fortress. It was also built to show the power and authority of the king. It was also built as a symbol of wealth. It was also built as the residence of the king. It was also built for religious ceremonies or religious centers. There are a number of theories on why Great Zimbabwe was built. So we don't have a single factor which explains why Great Zimbabwe was built. Therefore, the building of Great Zimbabwe, the purpose why it was built, also falls under the origins of Great Zimbabwe. There is also a controversy on why the conical tower was built. Some scholars argue that the conical tower was built as a watchtower. This is where young boys, this is where cattle herders used to stand as they herded their livestock or their cattle. So there are some historians who argue that it was built as a watchtower. Some even state that the conical tower was built as a grain storage. This is where the grains were stored. This is where the grains were kept by the elder wife of the king, the Vahosi. And this conical tower is in the great enclosure. Therefore, this brings a strong evidence that it was built as a grain storage. There are some who also say that the conical tower, it was built to show the power and authority of the king. Its shape is similar to a shape of a man, therefore signifying the power and authority of the king. So by not having a single explanation on why the conical tower was built, it also brings a controversy on who was responsible for the building of Great Zimbabwe, brings a controversy on the origins of Great Zimbabwe. There is also a problem on the time when Great Zimbabwe was built. Eurocentric ideologies, they say that Great Zimbabwe, it was built around 1200 to 1300 AD. They argue that the artifacts, the fossils that were excavated at Great Zimbabwe clearly stated that, or clearly showed that this great monument, it was built around that time. However, this was disputed by Afrocentric historians. They argue that Great Zimbabwe was built around 1100 AD. So by not having a specific time, by not having a specific period on when Great Zimbabwe was built, it also brings a controversy on the origins of Great Zimbabwe. Therefore, who was responsible for the building of Great Zimbabwe? So in short, we are saying that we have got 5 important theories that we should know on the origins of Great Zimbabwe. Afrocentric theory, Eurocentric theory, the time theory, why Great Zimbabwe was built, and also the purpose of the conical tower. These define the origins of Great Zimbabwe.